Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
In today's episode, we delve into a crucial aspect of successful fundraising, the significance of good data on donors. Joining us are industry leaders who have mastered the art of leveraging data for fundraising success. Our guests for this insightful discussion are CEO and founder Jeff Porter from Handbid, along with Director of Marketing and Partnerships Lori Mackay. We are also joined by Chris Boyette and Jennifer Cole, both from Alumni Finder, bringing their extensive expertise to the table. Tune in as we uncover the power of good donor data and how it can revolutionize your fundraising efforts.
All right. Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about all the various ways you can make your next fundraising event better. And today in the studio, we have our friends from Alumni Finder. We have Chris and Jennifer. And I'm joined by our special Handbid talent, Lori Mackay, our Director of Marketing. And we're here to talk about, I think, alumni data, right?
Yeah, great data. Great data for your fundraisers.
Yeah, coming from the nonprofit space and starting a nonprofit back in 2004, I understand the importance of data. So let's quickly introduce our guests here, and then let's dive in. So Chris and Jennifer, introduce yourselves. Talk a little bit about your company.
I'll go first. So I have been with Alumni Finder for about 13 years. I had no background in the data world, but I kind of fell in love with it when I got started, and I have obviously stayed with it. And so Chris and I have been working together for the last several years now. He has a lot of experience with other companies similar to Alumni Finder that he can kind of touch on. But together, Alumni Finder is basically an organization that works with nonprofits to help them clean up their database. So it's as simple as, helping them maintain the data that they have and helping them kind of build out more detailed profiles for better fundraising efforts. So that's kind of, in a 1-second nutshell, what Alumni Finder is doing.
Awesome.
My name's Chris. I've been with Alumni Finder to be 2 years in May. My background is nonprofits. I worked at a company at Blackbot. I'm sure a lot of the people listening are familiar with them. I was there for 12 years in the analytics and data enrichment services division. Then I moved on to other opportunities, tried my own thing for a little while, then came back, moved back to Charleston and hopped on board with Alumni Finder. And don't let the name fool you. I know you guys have probably have mentioned this, but you don't have to have alumni. Like, you could have all members, you could have donors, you could have subscribers, or you don't have to be a school. As long as you're a nonprofit, we can help you out.
Awesome. So this is, obviously you're helping them find alumni, and that might have been where you started. But what it sounds like is you guys have evolved into, how do we help you take your donor data in any form, whether it's there, missing or bad or correct or incorrect or whatever, and clean that up so that it can be useful for fundraising. Is that kind of, in a nutshell, what it is? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key thing, is for people to be successful in their fundraising efforts, it all kind of starts with that data. And so that's where we come in, and we really help them look at their database as a whole, or look at segments of their database, and really focus on the quality of their data, the accuracy of their data. So before they're going into these campaigns, or, doing an email campaign or a phone-a-thon or anything like that they have the correct data, that they're actually reaching their constituents. And so, yes, absolutely what you said. It's really cleaning up the information and really kind of helping them to build out these more detailed profiles so that they understand their people better and they can communicate with them more efficiently.
Okay. And so I think at a base level, we're talking contact information. And so let me ask you, when you go into, or you have a new charity client that comes on board, I mean, how accurate is it? Are you kind of mostly starting with contact information, like you don't have an accurate address, or you have an incomplete address, or you have an old phone number, or are you starting there? Or are you finding that that's mostly okay, and now you're kind of diving deeper into their activity or their history?
it's all across the board, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of times, like if you're speaking to events, a lot of times the data, they don't really think about the data initially. They're thinking about the big event that they're doing. And then when it comes around to inviting them, now you think about the data, so
right.
You want to basically, depending on what channel they're wanting to communicate with these people on, whether they're in the database or not, we can help them identify the right people to focus on down the channel that they want to look at or to communicate with them on. And I mean, it's across the board. I mean, if they have a database, and we'll typically help them understand what we can update, and then they can pick and choose what they want to clean up.
So you can connect to various CRMs and pull this data, or are they just sending you, spreadsheets of data, or how does that work?
It's a pretty much they would take an export of their data and then submit it to us through our, FTP, secure FTP folder, and then we pick it up and then run it through our analysis and then provide them with a report and say, if they have 10,000 records, we're going to go through each one of them, say out of all these 10,000, here's X number that we confirm have good addresses. Here's how many we can update. Same for cell phone, landline, emails, date of birth, deceased. And so it gives them a complete picture of the accuracy of their data. And if they're planning to email or, call all these people, then if they see that there's a big gap of missing numbers, we can help update those or, make sure that those addresses are going to the right places. So that the people they want to invite are actually, they know about the event, that it's coming.
Sure. And will you help them get the data back into their CRM, or do you hand them back a spreadsheet of the cleaned up data?
So you help me out, Jen, but we're agnostic. So like the databases that we work with are across the board. I mean, some people, it's all different types. We don't have a direct integration, but anyone that has, it's built in the format so that they can import it back into their system. Everything's on the codes that, each individual, they submit it to us. It's all flagged accordingly, and then they upload it to their database. But we obviously can help them answer questions, support them as they're doing that. But it's rare that they actually, I would think that they would come back to us more often because like Blackbaud, big integration was kind of a key, but they don't have, typically we don't have any trouble, integrating the information back in there at all.
Well, cool. And then, do you help them kind of establish a good data management, I don't even want to call it, but
process?
Maintenance plan?
Yeah, a process for them.
So that they know how to keep it, accurate again, because, it's...
Or do you guys do a continuous kind of...
service for them?
Service, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, honestly, we kind of look at it as an ongoing... So we contract per project, but ultimately we're trying to set them up to be successful down the road. So it's not just this one project where you clean up your mailing addresses or your cell phones or your emails. It's ongoing. So it's step one, yes, kind of cleaning up that contact data. Let's make sure that you have all that in a good place so that you can communicate with your constituents. Step two, building out these more detailed profiles, whether it's wealth information or employment, or different demographic data. So presence of children, household income, gender, religion. Again, just really helping you understand them. And so you can tailor your messaging to different audiences. And then step three is more of that maintenance type service. So, okay, we've got everything in a good place. We've helped you guys fill in gaps and kind of, learn more about these individuals. Now, how do you maintain that? And it's ongoing. So it's, your basic NCOA, PCOA, that really helps you kind of maintain mailing addresses. Mm-hmm. Through the post office, anybody that moves kind of fills out that NCOA form. So very basic, but a really good way to maintain your mailing addresses. We have an online platform that our clients use. It's one-off. So if they do a mailing and they get back 20 pieces of mail, they can go in there and look up these individuals on a one-off basis. That really kind of helps you maintain, again, addresses. It has cell phones, emails, property deeds, and tons of information in there that they can use to look up as needed. And so there are, basically I would say clients are looking at doing kind of a larger screening on an annual basis. And then again, utilizing some of those maintenance type services to kind of get them to that next larger screening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And as I'm thinking about it in my head and kind of, putting my nonprofit manager hat on and then my Handbid event hat on, I see also a need for a lot of charities to kind of have a good architecture in place. This is the source of truth of my data, and I have all of these other inputs coming in, and how do I make sure that I'm not ruining my own data? Because to your point, I go and I spend really good money with you guys to clean it all up, and then I run an event, and gosh, we see this all the time. I don't think people connect the value of data collection at an event with what's going on, and so or even data maintenance, because they'll be like, oh, I'm going to streamline check-in. I don't really know all these people's names, or I don't really have all their data. I'm just going to fake add fake emails and stuff just so that when they show up, they don't have to give me any info. And all you're doing is you're making it all worse because now that flows in, and now, computers are smart in some ways and dumb in others. And it's I don't know, you just gave me a new email for Lori Mackay. Is that the real one now?
Right.
So.
Or how do your donors want to be communicated with? It's we'll go into an event or an organization that we're working with, and a majority of their people are work emails, work phone numbers, landlines, things like that. And you're also trying to work with mobile bidding or some sort of software, and you don't have good data just for that specific event.
Right.
So you don't have the correct email that these people want to be bidding on.
Right.
We get into these topics with people where they're like, oh, well, we just want people to be able to bid. And then
they're not thinking that they've ruined their data, or they've made it worse, or they haven't captured an opportunity to get updated info. Right?
Yeah.
And we talked to them about, that's what the purpose of check-in is. The purpose of check-in isn't just to give you a table number and to also go and give you a paddle number. The purpose of check-in is the person that cares about my event, right? That's standing in front of me. They care about your organization if they're coming to your event. They're standing in front of me. Do I have the correct data for that person? That's the point of check-in. And then, you get your paddle number, which matches your information. You get your little drink tickets or whatever else. But honestly, do you have the data that your donor wants you to have to communicate with them about your event?
Right.
And so that to me is invaluable. And that's one of the main purposes of check-in. Right. And we talk to people about this all the time for when we're consulting or coaching with them. Look at it as more than just, I need to get them through.
Right.
Right. I need to be thorough, not just get them through. That's good.
That makes sense. I like that. And I will...
That's why she's the Handbid talent.
I love it. But I wanted to add on, because I do think that a lot of times, especially with events, people are capturing just email addresses sometimes. And so we have a lot of clients that are we hosted an event and we've got, 5,000 email addresses and nothing else, because that's all they captured at the event. And so I just wanted to throw it out, because a lot of clients don't know what to do. They obviously want to follow up, but they don't have the data now. And so something that Chris and I will help clients with is they come to us with that list of email addresses, and we can do a reverse email append. So then we are providing them with a name and a mailing address for those individuals. And so then that way, if they do want to send out a direct mail piece, or maybe if they then want to look for cell phone numbers or anything like that, we can kind of then help them get more information and append that to just the email address that they had. And the same thing with phone numbers. A lot of times they might just collect a phone number or an email, you know what I mean? And so we can kind of reverse that and help them get some more information. That way they can begin to, follow up and communicate with them after the event as well.
Right. Some thank you notes.
And a lot of times the way to make check-in even better is not to have them have to be interviewed by you. Let them register themselves, because then they're going to give the charity the information they want the charity to have. Here's how I want to be contacted, right?
Right.
Here's the email address I want you to use, or the cell phone number I want you to use, because what we see a lot is, you could say local company comes in and say it's, First Bank and they buy a table at an event, and all of a sudden they just put in names, and then someone calls up First Bank and says, who are the employees coming? And then they put in all of their data, including their work phone number and their work email. And these people don't want to be contacted by the charity through their work email. They want to be contacted by the charity through their personal email. So they show up at the event, and no one asks them, is this a work email address, even though it looks like one? Is there a better email that we should be using? They just check them in because they're like, oh, their email's here. I'm just going to check them in. And then all of a sudden, the bidder or the donor, they're looking at and they're saying, I don't want to log in with that info, right? So they go register separately or they don't. And all of a sudden now, like, you're not communicating with them, through a channel that they want. We see that a ton. And so, people have to balance out the desire for the seamless, I don't want to waste any of your time check-in with the, I need to capture the opportunity to get real good information from you for my database. Like, there's a little bit of a tension there, put it that way. But it's important because if you look at the backside of this, and this is where I would ask you guys, like, how do you kind of consult or help your, clients understand, like, now that you have this data, like, here's how you use it. Like, here's the types of things that you can do with accurate data, whether it be, running a direct mail campaign or doing an email campaign or a text to give campaign or whatnot. I mean, do you guys give them any advice in that area?
We definitely do. But one thing I wanted to mention on the event, and whatever the nonprofit decides to do as far as how they want to, when these people come in, the check-in process and the collecting the information, whatever they decide, it's extremely important to document it and like have like a processes and procedures for how you're running the events and getting the information and just in everything. Because what I see more than anything is that I'll get a call from somebody that just started as a development director for a nonprofit, and she has no clue what the data looks like. She doesn't have any records of it ever being cleaned up. There's no real policy. So she's just kind of starting from scratch when she really isn't. There's stuff that did happen, but everything was lost. And so she's kind of creating everything again. So having that is good because there's a lot of turnover. I mean, people typically go from one nonprofit to the other one, and people move around. So I think that's important. A good takeaway. Whatever's decided, just document.
Yeah, I agree with you. And thinking about like what to do with the data when you're done. So say your event is over, and so we get this question a lot from our clients, and they're like, my event is over, and we have the ability to automatically synchronize this data directly into your CRM with certain CRMs like a Blackbaud or a Salesforce or a Bloomerang or a Kindful. So we can do that. But, outside of that, it's like, okay, so all these people checked in. I have all of this data, whether they're bidders or they're just guests on my guest list or whatever. How do I reconcile that against my donor database? And I think every charity has to make that decision separately. Like, is this updated data that I think is important, and how do I want to get it updated? And in other times, they may have to say to themselves, like, did this data come directly from the guest?
Yeah.
And do I append it to what I have? Do I update what I have? Or did I create all this fake data and I need to toss it all out? I mean, either way, like, they need to make that decision on their own because, like, I don't know. I always call it a opportunity lost. Like, it's one thing to ask the post office, did this person move? It's really hard. I don't know. Maybe you guys have automated ways to do it. I think it's really hard to get somebody's updated cell phone number. But when they're standing in front of me, I have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing,
I mean, that's
to mention on that, what you just said, what do I do with the data? Just whatever you do, don't delete the data that was in there. Like, if you get an address, don't overwrite the existing address. Always save it as an alternative, as a backup.
Save both?
Yes, keep your old addresses and save them, because any company like us or any other one that does data projects for you that's looking to clean up or identify wealth or you name it, all those past addresses will help, to
Sure.
make sure that we have the right, John Doe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was going to say, I'll add on because I think it ties together, but something that we do for a lot of clients is like a free database analysis. So we can look at segmented files. So if they had a list of individuals from event or whatever, they can have us look at that file and basically provide them back with statistics on the accuracy of the data. So it will look at, here's Jennifer Cole, here's the address that we have for her. Is this the most current address? If so, flag it as being confirmed. If not, let us know if there's something newer or more up to date. And so it looks at all that contact data. So the mailing addresses, cell phones, landlines, date of birth. It looks for any deceased records. But it's a free analysis that we run all the time for our clients. And it's a good way for them to, again, look at their entire database and just kind of have a good idea of the overall shape of their data. Or they can look at smaller segments, whether it's from an event or they're, going into a campaign and want to look at a certain segment of their database. It's a really good way to kind of see the accuracy of that data and know where we could help them come in and clean it up.
Well, and it sounds like, for the audience listening, all of our nonprofits and possibly for-profit organizations, it sounds like a best practice that what I'm kind of gathering from this is that you need to have some processes written down about data management for your organization, because to speak to Chris's point, in the nonprofit sector, there's turnover all the time of auction managers, event managers, development directors, all that kind of stuff. And they need to have, as an organization, a process about how are we going to continue to collect data so our data stays good in spite of attrition of employees,
right,
and people working there. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm really kind of gathering from this, like a good best practice.
And there's turnover. I mean, let's just talk to the elephant in the room. There's turnover on event platforms too.
Yeah.
Right. And, we have clients who have come to us and in the previous 3 years, they've been on 3 different mobile bidding platforms, right? And maybe we're the 4th and maybe someone else will be the 5th, right? And what they don't realize is that they're walking away from all of this data from every single one of those platforms. And it's really a dangerous thing to do. Yeah, you could possibly download it, but most of them don't. And they just view this mobile bidding platform as this just transactional one-time event thing. And they forget that this is a very critical data collection tool. Yeah. And so it also should inform you on how you pick them. Mm-hmm. We talked to one prospect, and I was chatting with her, and she was telling me that the reason why she's moving platforms is the prior platform basically at the end of the event handed her a whole bunch of cell phone numbers and said, these are the people that donated to your event. And she's like, what are their names? She's like, we don't collect names. We don't collect emails.
They should refer Alumni Finder.
She's like, so what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to call them up and say, I don't know your name, but you donated $100. Thank you.
That's awkward.
It's awkward, right?
Yeah.
And so, but everybody's like, well, I just, I want it to be easy for guests. I don't, but you do want it to be easy for guests, but you also want their email address, right? Which is why that was one of the things in the very beginning we used to get blasted on, but our accounts are based on email because that is still, in a lot of cases, the primary and easiest way to get a hold of somebody and to find their info online, right? So,
well, we say this all the time when we're talking in the podcast that your donors are coming to your event because they want to give. Mm-hmm. They're not just coming to your event to watch a band, or maybe a few people, watch a band or eat your food, believe it or not. They're coming because they love you as an organization. So expect that they're going to want to donate. And with that donation comes, who are you?
Right.
What's your email?
Yep.
What's your cell phone number? We need your data so that we can track your donation. So expect that they want to come to your event to donate, right? So don't miss that opportunity to gather that good data.
Yeah.
And they want to be followed up with. If they're making the donation and putting their money, they want to be followed up with. They want to thank you. They want you to engage with them afterwards. And,
especially if they want an auction item.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
We did an event in Tampa, and I was blown away. They were like, these are all celebrities coming in. It wasn't exactly true, but they're all really super important people, and a lot of them are celebrities, and they don't want to be bothered giving their information. Okay, so what do you want us to do? Because they're going to donate, right? Yep, you're just going to have to create fake accounts for them, and then we'll deal with it later. So sure enough, They created all these fake accounts for these guests. The guests go in there and then they come out the door and they're like, they're leaving or they're looking for their they're like, hey, just shoot me a text or shoot me an email with my receipt and, mail me my item. Well, how am I going to do that? I don't even know who you are.
Right.
Right? I don't know your phone number. I don't know your email address. I don't even have a credit card on file for you. And if I did have a credit card on file for you, it's against a fake email. So anyway, it was just a complete disaster. And they're like, well, how are we supposed to get a hold of all these people? I said, good question. Maybe you should have thought of that before you put in all this fake information because you didn't think they wanted to be bothered. But how are you going to follow up? These people showed up to your charity, donated.
Yeah.
You don't think that they want an email receipt or at least a follow-up or a thank you note? And how do you expect to give them that? And trust me, we've checked in plenty of celebrities, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're willing to give you an email address.
Yeah.
I mean, because they want follow-up to your point, Jennifer. I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah. Or their assistant's email address.
Hey, let's, I want to dive into the Alumni Finder part with you guys for a second because, Lori and I were talking about this prior to the podcast. And so do you actually help organizations find alumni?
So I'll jump in really quickly because the name is deceiving on two ways. One, Chris already addressed that we don't just help clean up alumni records. We clean up donors, members, any type of constituent record. But also we don't just go find alumni that a college or university doesn't have. So we couldn't have X, Y, and Z nonprofit or university or college come to us and say, hey, we don't know who our alumni are. Can you find them for us? That's not what we do. We need them to give us a list of people that they probably have very old, maybe they have a parent's address from when they enrolled in the school. That's fine. We can work with that, but we have to have something to go off of. So we're not actually saying, here's a list of your alumni.
Got it. Okay. I was excited for a second because I'm on an advisory board for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I'll be honestly, just full disclosure, they have no idea who their alumni are, right? Because this would be a high school kid who's attending an organization's events, and then they go off to college, and maybe they stay with FCA, but there's other on-campus crusades and all those that might have joined instead. But either way, once they get into the workforce, it's who was an FCA alumni? They have no idea.
But do they have data from when they were a part of FCA? Because that would be something Alumni Finder could help.
Right. So here's the tricky situation. This might be something where you guys could come in and help us on the, kind of in the spot where these people are still active members. Mm-hmm. These are kids under the age of 18 in most cases, so we have to be a little bit careful on what we're tracking. But this has come up a lot, and I think it's for any organization who has a transient membership like FCA would. I think it'd be interesting to say what kind of data management processes do you need to put in place so that you can capture that and say, okay, so you're going to graduate, and I'm not going to really contact you for about 6 or 8 years because I want you to get through college or whatever else you're doing and then get into the workforce and be in your late 20s, and then I want to reach out. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right?
That would be tough, especially with high school kids.
Yes.
That would be really tough. Maybe you get parent
information. But social media, there's social media, there's Gmail. Mm-hmm. Or some sort of email. All of them have an email address that's a personal one.
But somebody's got to gather the information and have a process or a system in place as an organization, a best practice.
But if they gave you, so let me ask you guys this question. Maybe this is a twist on the same one. But if an organization that had a transient audience like that said, here's a list of emails, and they might be 6 or 8 years old, would you be able to take that list and try to help them figure out more up-to-date information about that person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because they have their high school email, some of these kids, or even...
Yeah, but that's going to be tough, right? I mean, it's going to be some K12.org kind of thing.
Right.
But every single one of them would have a Mac.com or a Gmail.com or Yahoo.
Well, they all create accounts for their video games. they're anything like my kids. They all had to create Gmail accounts so that they could get their video gaming stuff up and going.
Right.
They had to get real ones.
To chime in on that, we do not provide any data on individuals under the age of 18. So a lot of our clients, there's going to be a period of time where, depending on their organization, obviously there could be a period of time where they're still contacting their parents. It's like still asking parents for support of the school or the organization. And then in time, as those individuals get older and they're more established in the world, they have a car, a credit card, they own a home or have bills in their name or whatever. When they begin to really kind of establish themselves and they're obviously over the age of 18, that's where we could take the child's name, the parent's address, because that's probably all that they had from when they enrolled in that school or program. And then we can find where they are. What is their home address? What is their cell phone number? What is their email address or whatnot? But I think there's definitely a period of time where, we can't provide data on that type of individual. They're really not out there to be found because they're still under their parents' roof and all of that.
Right. And I don't think it's useful at that point, right? I mean, if I graduate from high school when I'm 18 and I was in FCA, and now I'm 20 or 21 years old, I'm still likely in college or at least beginning my, career. I'm probably not prepared at that point to donate. But to your point, like maybe when I'm 26 or 28, so I'm 10 years past that point, I hand you this list of emails and you figure out where they're at, and then you start applying like, well, now they own a home or they're renting or this is what their net worth is and blah, blah, blah. That could be really valuable information.
Exactly.
Well, even when we did our podcast on millennials, and Gen Z and all these generations that are coming up, the psychological evaluation of these kids is they want to donate, they want to give, even though they're young and they don't have maybe the amount of funds. They might start giving, in college. I was an FCA in college. I was an FCA until I was 21. So, just kind of speaking to that too, like you never know.
Right.
We don't want to limit donors, right? And then it creates that donor relationship from a really kind of a good young age, especially with FCA and organizations like FCA have established some sort of like rapport with them and have, they have a story and then their story gets to be, I just love that, so yeah, I think something like that'd be good for you, Jeff, and FCA.
I know. We're going to need an Alumni Finder.
I'm going to need you guys.
I was going to mention that it may not be a bad thing to, instead of waiting, once they finish FCA in turn, are established, like just if you have their oldie, send them an email on their birthday, just some touch point every year, whether it be a birthday, hey, we're just checking in, this is what's going on. Here's our Facebook, not asking for anything in return, just so that, now they're 27, 28 years old and they get a nice mailing and you can tell that, there's going to be an ask, like it's a call to action to give. So you're kind of doing the cultivating.
Well, universities can be good at that. Like the university I graduated from, they send me, since I graduated, I've had a birthday card every year. They've managed to find me. They're probably using you. They've managed to find me and send me a birthday card, and they always send a Christmas card every year. They're not asking for money.
I don't get a birthday card. I got the whole, what I got? I went to Virginia, right? So I got the lifetime membership, pay us $500 or something like that. And I paid them $500 when I was in my late 20s. And I don't know, maybe the University of Virginia football alumni, that one is all over me, right? They text, and that one's fun, right? Because they have events and tailgates and all that other kind of stuff. And it's a little bit more engaged. But, I don't know. I
love that idea.
I don't get a birthday card from the University of Virginia. I'm offended now.
I do.
I don't know.
My university's better than university, and my university's in Virginia as well.
I know. And I've heard it all this year. Liberty University was the best football team in the state of Virginia, and James Madison would probably disagree.
Kind
of
a big deal nationwide now, even though they got beat by Oregon, but we won't talk about that right now. No, I love that idea. And, I love that idea for organizations too. We're talking about events and specific thing for events, but I like that touch point. You're right, Chris. That touch point where it's just like, I'm not asking you for money. We're just wishing you a happy birthday. Or we're just saying,
will you find their birthday for them?
Yeah.
If I gave you email, yeah.
We could try. We could definitely try.
Is there any concerns around like data privacy or anything like that you guys have to worry about? Or do you guys have any tips for organizations for data privacy? Or is it pretty much free for all with data since it's all online now?
It has drastically changed over the last several years in terms of data privacy and security and all of that. And I can say that our organization has gone through all the things to make sure that we're compliant with protecting not only our clients' data, but the data that they have access to when they work with us. So like SOC 2 compliant, there's all these things that we've had to go through from a legal and IT perspective just to make sure that we meet requirements of our clients. And so, it was a lot of work, but it's today you have to have those things. I mean, especially when you're working with larger universities, it has just, again, it has changed drastically over the last couple of years. And so we can confidently say that we can, meet those requirements. But yeah, it's not just like emailing your data to somebody. I mean, everything that we do is to make sure that it's protecting the client's information. We don't use their data for anything other than to like help them clean it up. So that sounds basic, but I mean, clients always ask, are you storing this data? Are you selling this data? Is it going anywhere else? And like, absolutely not. So that's
a good point.
Yeah. And I mean, we can only have a file for 30 days and then it is like permanently purged from our servers. Can't get access to it again. So there's a lot of things that we've had to put in place to make sure that, we can adhere to all those requirements.
No, and I think that's important. We're in the same boat, right? And, for us, part of it is, some of the data that we store, actually a lot of the data we store is not super sensitive data. I mean, it's their address or their email address or their phone number, and a lot of that's available online. But either way, it's still a massive nuisance to anybody if their data is compromised. So we have to do the same things, and I think a lot of charities don't understand. Universities do.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of charities don't understand the importance of working with partners who understand the compliance elements around data and protect data. And understand what a SOC 2 compliance is, and understand what the California privacy laws are, and now every state is going to have their own, right? And then you go up to Canada and they have their own. You go to Europe and the EU has their own, and understanding whether or not those apply, and then making sure that not only do you understand what's required, but you actually go implement it. And it's funny now for us, I mean, even with Apple and Google, I mean, they have really cracked down. I mean, every time we push an app to the App Store, we have to go through this entire, what data are you collecting through your app and what are you doing with it? And do you give, the end user the ability to edit it or delete it? And we do, right? And, I think a lot of charities out there, if you're thinking about, who am I working with or what tools am I using, you need to ask those people, are you up to speed on all of these data privacy laws and privacy policies, and how are you implementing them?
Right. Are you a trustworthy partner?
Kudos to you guys for being on top of that. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Well, same back at you.
Yeah. This has been, data is so funny. It's I don't know. Some people will probably look at the title of this podcast and say, "Yeah, data." This is so important. It is the blood running through the body, right? I mean, it is so critical that it's accurate and so critical that it's available.
Yeah, everything starts with it.
Yeah. So love the fact that you guys are helping charities do this. And again, I mean, also it's an opportunity for us to also reinforce how important it is at events to collect good and accurate data. And it cannot be said enough. I mean, as a charity, if your event planner is telling you that check-in speed is more important than data collection, find a new event planner. I'm sorry, because you can quickly collect data. I mean, there's just ways to make that faster, but it is super important
and painless. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I agree. And you got to think too, even when, like for us to do our work, if they're getting crappy or very limited data in, it's going to limit what a company like ours can do. If you give us crappy, incomplete records, we're not going to have a super successful overall result for you. So we really want to make sure that, that yes, they're collecting as much information as they can. And then in time, that data is going to change. I mean, I think the statistic is like 30 million Americans are moving every year. And so data changes every day. And so it's important that they collect that information and then utilize a company similar to ours to really help you kind of maintain that database. And people are going to move, or maybe you didn't get a phone number for somebody or whatever. We can kind of help fill in those gaps. But it all starts with the data, collecting it, and then maintaining it is just going to make your overall fundraising goals more successful for you.
Well, that's awesome. That is awesome. So how do people, because I'm going to strongly encourage some of our listeners here to get in touch with you guys to help clean up the data. So how do they do that? How do they get started with Alumni Finder?
AlumniFinder.com is our website. And we can leave our information with you guys and then have them reach out to us. That's the...
Okay. Sign up for that free analysis.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
it's
we
free.
would love to run the free analysis for anyone who's listening. You could reach out to Chris or myself, and there's no strings attached. It's a free analysis where you can look at your database and see exact statistics on the accuracy of it and what a company like us could potentially do for you in terms of cleaning it up. So you don't have to purchase anything, run the analysis, look at the stats. I think it's a really good resource for everybody. So definitely take advantage of it if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is there's not going to be a bunch of magazines showing up the next month if they do the free analysis with you.
Absolutely not.
All right.
No. That's awesome.
I love it.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us for the podcast.
Yeah, I think it was a great conversation. I get as visionary as I am in certain parts of the business, I just get nerdy about data because I think it's so important. So this has been a great conversation for me and hopefully for our listeners to understand the importance of what you guys do. Get that free analysis, guys. And then make sure you also understand and just remember, as we've said on probably at least half a dozen podcasts now, the check-in process is a critical data collection, data cleanup point of your event. Yeah. So keep that in mind.
Yep. Agreed.
Absolutely. Right. Thanks for having us, guys. We enjoyed it.
Thank you guys. And, we're going to wrap up this podcast. So for all of you that are listening, again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you need to get in touch with Alumni Finder and you're not being successful doing that, we will help you get connected to them as well. So until then, happy fundraising.
Thanks for tuning in to this enlightening episode of Elevate Your Event. We hope you've gained valuable insights into the pivotal role of good donor data in fundraising. Thank you to Chris Boyette and Jennifer Cole from Alumni Finder. Reach out to them at alumnifinder.com. If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.